Hello, welcome back to Ycft. It has been so long since we've done an in-person review of a new movie. I think the last one was probably Evil Dead Rise?
Over a year ago.
Yeah.
If that is the case.
The movie we're talking about today is Alien Romulus. In case you haven't guessed by all the Alien merch. This is one of our most anticipated movies of the year, so we knew we didn't just want to, get out the animated guys. We wanted to sit down and talk about this ourselves. Because we were very excited. I am a massive fan of the director, Fede Alvarez.
I'm a massive fan of a lot of the Alien movies. I won't go so far as to say the entire franchise, but I pride myself on my Alien knowledge.
I am a massive fan of Prometheus. And the other ones. We rewatched
We've discussed.
Yeah, we did like a 2-hour video 2 years ago debating it. In the lead up to this, we rewatched Alien, we rewatched Aliens.
Yeah.
So we went to cinema last night.
So psyched.
I had a weird crowd. We had a crowd that could not sit still. I counted the guy in front of us get up to the toilet 4 times. The guy 2 down from me got up twice. People just would not sit still. And that was really weird. A lot of phones.
Phone screens. There's a guy next to me just on Facebook for the first 10 minutes.
So Alien Romulus is about this young crew of miners who want to leave this planet where they're basically contracted to work for their entire lives.
Yeah, there's no sunlight either, is there?
No sunlight. They're basically they are lower than working class.
Yes.
And they discover this space station in orbit, this decommissioned Weyland-Yutani research station that they want to go and basically use their cryopods to get to somewhere better. Because this place they want to go to would take 9 years to get to. Whilst on this ship, things are not quite as they seem, and they come across the Xenomorph. And the ship is called Romulus. The space station is split into 2 parts. We've got the Romulus and we've got the Remus.
Yes.
And the Romulus side of it is where all the bad stuff has been going on.
Yes.
So Sam, what did you think of Alien Romulus?
I thought it was okay.
I also just kind of thought it was okay. I think I enjoyed it more than you did.
I thought this film was...
I thought the film was good.
Okay. So yeah, we were both very, very excited about the movie. From the very first trailer I saw, I got so excited because I cottoned onto all of the little nods and references that Fede had put in to the trailer. Well, if it wasn't Fede, obviously you did the trailer himself, but whoever did the trailer, I got really, really excited. And then the second trailer came out and there were even more nods to Alien. And I was like, oh my god, the Lucky Star song is in there. And the font, the original Alien font, and the sound of the alarm blaring. I was like, yes, Fede, he gets it. He's got all these little references and I was so excited. And I thought the film was okay. Now, I don't want it to sound like, excitement levels were so high that, and expectations weren't met, and that's why I'm disappointed. It wasn't that. I went into it still being realistic. But I think we still have some valid, bona fide reasons as to why this film doesn't quite work. Classic filmmaking, storytelling boo-boos, I think. I honestly thought it was just okay for me. I wasn't overwhelmed by it at all, and maybe a little bit disappointed.
I thought the movie was good. A couple of key changes really made the movie great. I think because I saw a lot of hype going up to it, and I've still seen a lot, even preparing for today, a lot of people putting it in their top 3 Alien films. It's not quite there for me. I do just want to point out some stuff that I really like, because there's so much in this movie that I love. Mm-hmm. The aesthetic. Your common complaint, and a lot of common complaints about Prometheus, is it's too shiny. Everything looks too new.
It's too new, considering it's set, 50 years before the first film?
The Romulus looks like it belongs in the Alien world.
Yeah, it does. It's
clearly a different type of ship from the Nostromo.
Yeah.
But all the computer screens are still very analog. They've all got the right sound effects, the right font. They're using the CRT screens.
Yeah.
And then mixed with some incredible lighting and cinematography. There's a bit where a ship goes past a window and you see the light go past. This is probably the best looking and feeling Alien film in a very, very long time. Maybe even harkening back to something from the best since Alien 3. Prometheus is a great looking film, but it's not a great looking Alien film because it's so clean and bright. Yeah. This, you can feel the grime, you can feel how analog a lot of it is. And that I really, really want to praise. That sound design was so good in this film. The Xenomorph, I really, really want to shout how great it looked, how they framed it, how they lit it. It was fantastic, and we saw things to do with the Xenomorph that we've not seen in the franchise before. We saw a lot of facehugger action. They tried to make facehuggers scary again, because in every other film, a facehugger would just be it would jump, do its thing, and that's kind of it.
It's what they do.
After they've kind of done their thing, they're not a threat anymore because they're dead. And you can tell from the trailer, facehuggers were going to be more important to this plot. And there are certain scenes where there's so many facehuggers. And I'm like, this is cool. This is something I've not seen before.
Yeah.
It's unlocked fears I didn't know I had. I also do want to point out, I've seen a lot of the behind-the-scenes video of all the practical effects, like the practical alien, practical facehuggers. Those facehuggers were replaced in post. Absolutely. They were just there for light and reference. There's no way the puppets move like that. And that's... we're in that interesting time where if any studio uses visual effects or CGI, they have to say that they're not. CGI is not a dirty word. I can tell they've used these practical facehuggers for performance reasons and for lighting information. And that's what's led to some really, really good looking effects in this movie.
Yeah.
Especially the space stuff looks incredible.
It does. Yeah, it is a film that visually, aesthetically belongs in the Alien world. I think especially the first Alien, like Fede, the production designer as well, like they did an excellent job of, making us feel like we are immersed in that dark, grimy, very biomechanical world. Yeah, I really did appreciate that as well. And it also, like, it's not CCTV, but what is it? Like CRT screens. Like, it looks like we're back in 1979 again on the Nostromo. So little things like that I did appreciate. I agree. I think the Xenomorph looked phenomenal.
Yeah.
Looked brilliant even. The
attack scenes were violent. Like, more violent than we've seen recently.
I think we just also need to say, for the most part, this is going to be a spoiler-free review.
Yeah, we're going to have a minor spoiler section at the end of the video to talk about a couple little things, but we don't want to just give away, like, the ending of the movie.
So for now, this is just kind of
we're going to be in the spoiler-free section.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, yeah.
Previous movies kind of forgotten about the extent of the alien acid blood. Especially in the AVP films, it was very situational. And obviously we know from the first Alien film, when they try and cut the facehugger off, it nearly burns through the entire ship.
Yes.
And that becomes a plot point in this, when they get to the Romulus and we see, like, there's massive gaping holes in the floor. And when it comes to taking on the Xenomorph, when they have weapons, they're told, don't shoot it. Like, why?
Yeah,
it's like,
because you will blow
below
us
is the
space.
Yeah, below us is the vacuum of space. The gun might act as a deterrent, but we can't just blow this thing up because then we're going to blow ourselves up. And I like how the Xenomorph's internal defense system has actually been brought into the story and is used for plot points within, and I really appreciate it.
I do as well. It's like going back at watching Aliens, my knowledge of Alien 3, and then we did recently rewatch Resurrection. There is a criminal underuse of acid blood kills.
Yeah.
Throughout the franchise, and there's a really excellent acid blood kill in the movie.
There really is, I guess.
Yeah, it is a major plot point. Yeah, for sure.
Fede, we know this from like the Is Evil Dead film, that he's not scared to force you to watch something that's making you uncomfortable. And I think he uses that very, very well.
Yeah, there's something so particularly gnarly about seeing acid just strip skin down to the bone. Yeah. It's brutal.
I also kind of want to praise what's the name of the guy who plays the android?
We'll tell you now. He's a British actor, David Johnson.
He was kind of like the heart of this movie for me. I really liked his performance, kind of like as a sort of like aging android. I really just liked his whole arc, and for me he was like the most fun of the characters to watch. I suppose the characters does lead into something that we don't really like about the movie is we've seen a lot of praise for the cast, but we not sure if everyone was watching the same movie as us.
I don't know where the hell that's coming from.
Yeah. I feel like you take the lead, Sam.
I do want to stress, like, I did think this movie was okay. Like, it's certainly not the worst in the franchise for me by a long mile. But before we went to see it, I said to you, like, this movie just needs to do some really basic things to me. Like, 3 things. I need really good sound design. I need the classic score, and like the classic like alien fluty score that we get in the original, and I need it to just be like very much similar to the original movie. I just need a very simple alien story of a few people trapped in space with a xenomorph chasing after them. That's all I want. I should have added to that, I want some really good characters. Like, I keep taking it for granted how hard apparently it is to write, a modern day Kane, to write a modern day Lambert, to write a modern day Ripley and Parker and Brett and Ash. Like, apparently, I don't know what it is. These characters just did not do it for me. And I knew within like maybe the first 10-15 minutes of the movie, after spending time with like our core crew, I wasn't really going to enjoy them, and I didn't warm to any of them, and Final Girl included. The actress is called Kaylee Spenny, but her character is called Rain. She's essentially like our Ripley. I didn't warm to her at all. I didn't think she was...
I thought she was alright.
She was fine. She wasn't memorable.
For me, when she's got Andy the android with her,
Andy the android.
He is just more interesting than she is.
Yeah.
So I think she gets overshadowed by him a bit.
Again, revisiting the older movies, you realise, like, oh, there's a mix of ages amongst the cast. It's not everyone is really young, not everyone is, middle-aged. There's kind of like a nice mix of people, a different mix of personalities. Romulus, it's a very young cast. It's predominantly a young cast.
Yeah, I know that was a creative choice by them.
Yeah, must have been.
I think he said something along the lines of, the reason the cast are so young is for when they make the mistakes that they do.
They're rookies.
And they don't have the experience
That's fair.
that later crews would have, or even like...
That's fair.
Something say in Prometheus where the crew is massively experienced and they still fuck up. So he's like, by taking away their age and experience, it opens the door to, yes, they would make these mistakes.
That's absolutely fair. I just, like, when I watch Aliens, Alien 3 as well, I'm rooting for the characters because I enjoy the characters. Romulus, I didn't warm to any of them. And so when, inevitably they get in peril or they end up getting split up, I'm just kind of like, I don't really particularly care for any of them. And that was a big shame. But as I say, I think I kind of knew that within like the first 50 minutes. I realised I wasn't going to enjoy watching them. Another little gripe for me, I didn't think the dialogue between characters was particularly strong. We get a lot of references. I know we've touched on it, but like a lot of dialogue references to previous films as well. Straight up, just like re-quoting lines from previous films, like the classic ones and also like the not so classic ones. And every time they were uttered by a new character, I was just like, doesn't hit.
It's such an interesting thing because we're not a very negative channel, I like to think,
no.
And we both of us. The movie might not have reached expectations for us, but I feel like my enjoyment of the film was still like slightly higher.
The thing is, like,
than yours.
Yeah, I think so. Like, I still had a good time watching this, but I realised as well when we were in the screening, the crowd was ultimately, we were all quite mellow. I mean, it was a packed out cinema.
Tell you what, there was a couple of scares that got you.
Oh, there was one where you and me...
Both of us
very end. Oh my god. Yeah, that's like near the very end of the movie.
Yeah, a lot of the scares are actually pretty good in this film.
Yeah, but for the most part, I just thought the audience was quite mellow watching it. Like, there wasn't a huge ton of reaction, and I still long for that horror cinema experience where everyone is just really super on edge. Yes, it is a good film. And it's hard to talk about the intricacies, obviously, without going into spoiler territory too much. But there's a couple of other things that I didn't quite enjoy that, yes.
Would you say you preferred it to like Prometheus and Alien Covenant?
It's for sure above Covenant for me. Covenant is, I think, always going to be dead last. I do not like that. It needs to be taken out and shot.
That's the old Yeller of the Alien franchise.
Yes, it is. I'm not a fan of Prometheus. I don't know where I'd put...
What about the AVPs?
I think I need to rewatch them.
Yeah.
In honesty.
They're just cheesy goodness.
They're cheesy good fun.
Yeah. Something that the movie... Well, it stated, even like in the trivia, that it was a massive inspiration, was the game Alien Isolation. Which I adore that game. I remember a friend of ours, I remember this channel back when he was streaming during lockdown, streamed the entire game, and I remember us all watching it, getting involved. It's a great game. The story is great, and I think for a lot of people that is the true spiritual successor to Alien.
Yeah.
And these Alien Romulus and Alien Isolation occupy similar times. This film is set in between the events of Alien and Aliens. I think it's like 20 years after Alien. So they are occupying a similar time space. And plot-wise does take a lot
Yeah,
from it.
for sure.
Kind of makes me wish we just got an adaptation of Alien Isolation. But if you like that game, there's certain things you might be able to work out, but I think there's certain things that they've taken from the game which you'll like to see. Aesthetic things, like, this is sad as... You know when, in Alien Isolation, when they go up to the door and they've got the handles, you kind of have to, like, charge the points up to open them. That's in this movie, and I really... Like, I can't remember if that appears in the films at any point, but I looked at it, I'm like, oh, that's Alien Isolation. And obviously that game was really good at getting, like, the little details down from the movies.
Yeah.
And just the fact that, like, Isolation is set on a space station as well, granted a much larger one, I couldn't help but constantly draw comparisons. And I'm really glad because this movie overall is clearly made by a fan. And I've seen the comparison that maybe it shouldn't have been made by a fan, but the stuff that the fan has put in there...
Yeah.
And I know, like, we have the quoting dialogue. It's not like, say, a cameo fest when we're just going to see, like, a bunch of stuff from, like, other movies. It's part of the world.
Yeah.
When we see these things, other than lines of dialogue, when we see or hear certain sound effects, when we see certain things, they are a part of this world.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when we go into, like, slightly spoiler bits, that will make sense. But everything that's in this film feels like it belongs in the Alien universe. And that's what I really like. And that's why I do think it is the best Alien film to come out in a very long time.
Yes.
Because I love Prometheus, but it's not an Alien film.
It is not an Alien movie.
I do not like Covenant. It's better than the AVPs for me. It's up there with... It's either top 3 or top 4 for me. Even with its faults that did really annoy me and hold this movie back, we see simple things like, have we ever wondered when we see the alien when it's a chest burster between fully grown, what does that stage in the middle look like?
Yeah.
That stuff that's really
Yeah.
really interesting, just having this big practical xenomorph walking around, seeing it at different angles, it feeling like a bit of a threat.
Yeah.
That was really cool, and that's something that we didn't get in Covenant. At no point in Covenant did they... I don't even think it's technically a xenomorph in that.
I just don't.
They also give the facehuggers a scientific name. I can't remember what it was, but...
It's numbery.
It's
like
I kind of like that.
X1, Q4, 3.
But it had like a name as well, which again, I quite liked. So there's a lot in this movie that I really liked, but the problem being certain plot points and cast are what holds it back for me. I don't know if it's something I'll warm to over time, because I do feel like it's a movie I could put on and enjoy.
I will absolutely watch this again. Like, you can't really decide where you sit with the film just after one viewing. And also, like, I am aware in the screening, because of the phone situation and the people getting up and walking around to go for a piss, I was getting distracted. I feel like I missed like the first 5 minutes of the opening, which I was otherwise really enjoying. It was a lovely homage to the original. So I definitely need to watch it again, and I will watch it again. But I also agree, I just can't see myself really ever returning to this in the same way that, you know, like, I will happily watch Alien any time of day. Anytime, anywhere.
Anytime, anywhere.
Right.
I will not really watch Alien Romulus that often. I can't see myself. But you know what? Things change. I mean, you know, here I am now not really knowing where I placed Prometheus. And I never thought I'd ever get to this stage. I would probably still put Romulus over Prometheus just by virtue of the fact it is an Alien film.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
You know, like, and that's what I ultimately enjoy about this whole franchise. I love seeing that xenomorph.
The fact that this movie was originally going to go straight to streaming like Prey did.
That's criminal.
That's criminal. This movie is... it is a good cinema experience.
It is.
For the sound design, for the scares, the jumps. It deserves to be seen up on the big screen. If we'd watched this at home, I think we would have missed out on a lot of the bits that we did actually really like in the film.
Yeah, totally.
It's like Prey absolutely should have gone to the cinema.
Oh,
so I'm glad this tested really well. And I know we have got more Alien stuff coming, like there's an Alien TV series, which I think is going to be linked in some way. Should we get into some...
Yeah, yes, let's go.
Spoiler warning. These are minor spoilers, I'm going to say. Minor to mid. We are not going to spoil the end, the last third of this movie.
No, we're not going to
talk... it's too new.
No character deaths either. Nothing specific like that. Just minor plot points.
Right, so
minor
we do
moments.
Have a returning cast member.
From the original.
Kind of. We do see an android that has been destroyed by acid, which, again, acid being a plot point. And we look and it's like, oh, is that Ian Holm? That I had that spelled for me before going into the screening.
I'm annoyed for you because that is shit.
Yeah. It was also just incorrect as well. The spoiler that I'd seen is. So yeah, we're looking at, oh, that's Ash. It's another version of Ash's android called Rook. And what looks like how they've done it is a mixture of a practical face mold, an actor playing the role, because there is someone credited with playing him, and the voice. It's interesting how they do the voice, because they put in a bit of like crackly robotic stuff in there because he's damaged, and I think that hides a lot of it. I'd seen a spoiler, they said, oh, they've used AI to bring him back to life. It's way more complicated than that. If they've used AI, what they've done is they've done some machine learning, trained a deep fake to do it, and his family would have had to have signed off on that. So I've risked that. I remember the first comment was, the movie's not even out yet, you prick.
It's true.
It's true.
It's true.
Some scenes he looked really good. Some scenes he looked janky as hell. It was weird. It's very uncanny valley. When you see him up on a CRT screen, he looks great.
Yes.
Was he necessary? No. Did he work in the world? Yes.
Yeah.
I think because to me, what we've seen between Prometheus and Covenant, there's different models of Android that look the same. Of course, Ash wouldn't be the only one.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I agree. It's unfortunate in that when he was talking, the mouth movements didn't quite align, and you got like that classic sort of smooth...
Too smooth, yeah.
Look, which, it was noticeable, but the voice was spot on, I think. And yes, like there's non-dialogue moments where, he just sort of turns his head, or you see him on a screen somewhere, and that looked brilliant.
Really good.
But
really good.
Nice little surprise for me, seeing Ian.
Yeah,
again.
it wasn't for me. So, the other bit to go into minor spoilers. Going into this, we assume that this is going to be a homage to the original Alien.
Just Alien.
Just Alien. Maybe small
OG.
bits towards Aliens. No, this is actually a reference to all.
All of them, baby.
It homages all of them. And
Every single one.
why I think this goes into spoiler territory is this does even touch on the events of Prometheus.
It does. Quite to a fairly large extent.
To the point where we even hear like some of the music from Prometheus.
Oh, you
and we
looked
see
at me.
the black goo. And that was the point of this space station, was to experiment on the xenomorphs. And that surprised me. I wasn't expecting to technically get a sequel to Prometheus. I kind of like it because it does kind of like cap off the trilogy that never was in a way. Like, but also we're now at the point where this is just part of the alien world, and would it feel wrong for it not to be there?
I mean,
Now that we know this is what Wayland Utah's been doing for better part of 100 years, probably.
My feelings on Prometheus Covenant aside, I actually respect Fede a lot for combining elements of all of the Alien movies, the good and the not so good.
That's why we came home last night, and I didn't expect to end my Friday night by watching Alien Resurrection, just because I needed to.
You're telling me?
I wanted to see where I placed this movie, and like I said, there's stuff from almost all these movies
In there.
and I just had an inkling. I've not had an inkling to watch Alien Resurrection in maybe 15 years.
It's the same for me. It's been well over a decade.
To be honest, I didn't have a terrible time rewatching it.
I actually had a lot of fun rewatching it.
If you take off the end of that movie, the movie's actually just silly and fun.
There's some standout moments in Resurrection.
Oh, there is, and it just gets a bit too weird. This movie also, in different ways, gets a bit weird. And I think I liked bringing in the stuff from different movies, the world, because the alien world is a much bigger place than it was when the first film came out. But the stuff that the alien plotline leads to, that I think just bogged the movie down a little bit. And I think if they cut that and just streamlined it a little bit, maybe saved it for a sequel, the movie would have flowed a bit better for me. But I've also seen that there's a lot of people that don't mind that. So I think that might for the Prometheus defender, it's weird for me that the Prometheus side of this story is kind of the problem that I have.
Yeah.
But that's just for me because I think it just bloats the film a little bit.
I did
love having that be referenced. I'm glad that this new era isn't just going to ignore what's happened. Like, no. Ridley Scott was a producer on this. On this film, and Parry Fede he loves canon. He loves anything that's part of the world, the timeline, and he never wanted to disrespect the canon. So I do appreciate these things that have been added in there to ensure that we're not just ignoring the stuff that people might not like.
Yeah, as I say, like I totally respect that from Fede, because it is the first film in the entire franchise that has made any attempt to sort of blend, like the more monster classic horror elements of the older films and the more like philosophically inclined, lofty religious, like experimentation ideals of the later films. Like this is the first movie that sort of combines the two. And even though it's not clearly not my favourite, it did an okay job, I think, of blending them. It's a nice mix.
Yeah.
Of
and
the two elements.
Plot-wise, it does kind of work.
Yes, it does. I will also say, to the movie's credit, I did enjoy just how much Weyland-Yutani is still very much like, the overall big bad of the entire sort of debacle. That the company and the prime directive and everything else.
One thing I really
looming
liked,
large.
this isn't even a spoiler. The space station is in orbit around a planet that has an asteroid ring.
Yeah.
I just kind of like the unique scenario that our characters are in. We're not just on an alien planet or on a ship out in the middle of nowhere. We're on an abandoned space station in orbit, which has a risk of just basically getting too close. We've not seen that in an alien film.
No.
Yeah, I know in Resurrection, at one point the ship's going to crash into Earth, but that's, they tell it to do that. I like a unique scenario, and it leads to some incredible visuals. And just that constant threat in the background of they only have a certain amount of time.
Yeah, totally. You have 40 minutes till the ship's going to explode. Yeah, I did like that. Just to harp on a few gripes from me, nothing spoiler-y specific. Just going back to some characters. There's one character that I absolutely despised from the get-go. Just one of those characters that's kind of written unnecessarily antagonistic. And it really reminded me of that character in Prometheus, the stoner guy.
Or the guy that likes rocks.
The one that really loves rocks. He loves rocks. And it's the guy even has the same Cockney accent in this one. It's just a thing. But he's really antagonistic towards another character in particular. And even though there's some reason as to why, it just doesn't, I don't know, it didn't come off as genuine to me or really necessary. There is a character that is pregnant in the movie, and I guess being in hypersleep and pregnant is fine. She's clearly in the very early stages of pregnancy, but it's one of those things, one of those plot points where you kind of know, obviously this is going to come back into it, and this is Alien is all about birthing. It's all about motherhood and all of that stuff. So sort of where that angle is going, but there's also a really cringy bit of dialogue connected to that I just couldn't forgive the movie for, and I am going to talk about that. So, obviously, the characters come from a planet where there's 0 hours of sunlight and daylight. And there's a moment where, she's cradling her belly. And she's like, oh, I'm just so happy that my baby will get to see the sun. My eyes rolled so far into the back of my head with that line. I feel like it's a hard line to deliver sincerely anyway, but it just...
Speaking of characters' eyes rolling back, there's one bit where the android reboots and his eyes roll back to by way, see the way in the Yutani logo, and I loved that.
Yeah, it was fun. Overall, it was still a fun movie to see. The characters were a massive letdown for me. And, unfortunately, when you are watching an alien movie, yes, you're there for the xenomorph, but you need a final girl and you need characters that you were rooting for and you get behind. And I just didn't have that with this. So it just didn't make it for a fully enjoyable experience, ultimately. The production design, loved. The xenomorph, absolutely loved. There were some good, tense-filled moments that Fede Alvarez just, excels at. It's the characters. I just couldn't get behind them.
Ultimately, it's the same for me. I think if you're a newcomer to the Alien franchise, a lot of what happens in the film might surprise you, but I think if you've looked into if you watched the later films, played the games, I think ultimately the movie might come as a bit predictable.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
We'd like to shout out our groovy members. We appreciate everything you do for this channel and helping us grow. You guys are awesome.
I just remembered a moment where a xenomorph does something totally out of character. And I don't know if I want to talk about it right now, or can we? Is it too spoilery?
I think we can. There's a moment where a character falls and...
almost certain death is, upon her. She's falling down this huge shaft thing, and an alien is climbing up as well, chasing after her, and saves her from falling, captures her with its tail, and then instead of killing her, what xenomorphs do, gently places her to safety and then doesn't kill her.
It like goes really close to her, almost like it wants to embrace. You've been stabbing things with that tail
Tell
for the
me,
majority of this movie.
tell me how and why and since when it's in an alien's best interest to save a human. Like, I'm so happy that you clocked it too when we came out and we talked about it. I was like,
I'd completely forgotten about that moment. Yeah,
That
it's
was
really
such a-
dumb.
it was
It's really, really dumb.
such a weird moment. Anyone else? They'd be
Change the
dead.
music. Change the music in that scene, and you've got.
Oh, you changed the
A
music to
rom-com.
Marvin Gaye. Like, you've
Yeah.
got some serious seduction going on there. But it was just a weird moment.
Hey,
in the
it's
film.
got some good tongue action. It was a bit. I think that's the one of the few moments in the movie where I was really like, why?
Sorry, what?
So that doesn't
Come
really
again.
make a ton of sense. I feel like we've been shitting on this movie, but I
don't
do
mean
want to
to.
emphasise that I did enjoy it.
Yeah.
It just, I think this comes from more of a frustration of I saw what the movie could have been, but I will rewatch this and
Yeah, I will.
I might warm to it over time. And
Maybe.
for the first time, I am kind of excited to see what's coming next because we are in a new era of Alien. After Covenant, I had no interest of watching new Alien stuff. It wasn't until the trailer for this movie came out and I was like,
No.
I wouldn't even mind if Fede did another one. To be
No,
to be
neither would
perfectly
I.
honest,
I don't think direction is the problem here necessarily. I think again, it's a lot of it.
it's
is
script
in
and
the
actors.
script.
If they were down, do you think would be more forgiving of other things in the film?
Yeah.
Yeah, mixed bag, really mixed bag for us. I would say if you are a fan of Alien films, go watch it.
Oh, 100% go.
It
watch
deserves to be seen in the cinema.
You might love it.
And if you want more Alien films to be made, we need to see them in the cinema.
Yeah, yeah, for sure we do.
We need to give them our support. And it does look like we are in the minority here.
You know, you said something important last night because we both like Fede, but you are definitely more of like a diehard Fede fan,
Yeah.
I would say. And even you said, you know, like you can't like your love of a director cloud your objectivity over a film. And yeah, yes, we were maybe expectations were quite high going in again, just based off the trailer alone for me. But I think there's some general stuff here that just from a storytelling point of view just didn't work.
Thanks a lot, guys. Let us know if you've seen Alien Romulus. Like, by the time this video's come out, it'll have been out for a few days. I know my beard has disappeared, and next week it will be back. Things are filmed out of order, or I just have a big clip-on beard. You can choose which of it is. So, thanks a lot, guys, and we'll see you next week.